Welcome back. Well, Nigeria has about 36.9 million micro and small medium enterprises, representing a big number, about 96.7% of the nation's total businesses. Notably, 67% of these enterprises are owned by the youths. But with macro headwinds from 2023, like rising inflation, currency devaluation, it's made the business environment quite harsh for these MSMEs. We see the PMI, though, improved in December, about 52.7 points from 40 points in November. So it shows an improvement there for December. Let's get a sense of support expectations for MSMEs in Nigeria. We have joining us Timtola Adekunle-Johnson, Senior Special Assistant to the President on MSMEs and job creation. Great to have you on the show. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. So as I said before, 2023 was quite the year for businesses in Nigeria. Talk to us about, some of the support, given to MSMEs in 2023 by the federal government. And I remember in our end of year broadcast, you did talk about making available, the government making available single-digit loans for MSMEs in Nigeria. But looking at the stance, from the Apex Bank in Nigeria, it's still quite hawkish. Even though we see in other climes, there are signs of rate cuts, coming. But here we still have really high inflation. So talk to us about how possible it is to get this single-digit interest rates, and how much is it going to cost us as a country?
All right, thank you, Ladi. So what the government is trying to do is we have identified that, you see, whilst the government has made arrangements for palliatives or interventions, but you see, there's nowhere in the world where SMEs or small businesses continuously live or run their businesses solely based on palliatives or interventions. They are called interventions or palliatives because they are not an everyday thing. So what we're trying to do is to ensure that there's a conducive environment. As a business owner, would you rather collect a palliative every 3 months, or you want to have an avenue where you can walk into any commercial bank or government's financial institution and secure a loan of whatever it is that you're looking for at a single-digit sustainable rate and at a good tenure? Instead of looking at 6 months, you're looking at 3 to 5 years, with a possible extension to as much as 10 years. So what we are trying to do is to ensure that whilst there are arrangements for palliatives, the palliatives are as a result of the removal of the subsidy. So Mr. President has made provision for some palliatives for small businesses, manufacturers, and all, and etc. But what we are saying is that once that is being put in place, SMEs should be able to walk into banks and access loans like any small business anywhere in the world. Access loans at reasonable rates, not at 24%, not at 30%, not at 20-something%. There should be an avenue where an SME can walk into a bank and get a loan, well, as low as 9% for now. There is a partnership for them to do that right now. And one of the federal government support banks, the Bank of Industry, has said that they are going to use their own funding to on-lend to SMEs at 9%. So if you are qualified and you meet all the criteria that they are looking for, you can get that loan. Now, they are starting with 75 billion. It does not mean that if the loan performs, it cannot be reviewed upward. And the same thing with Access Bank. Access Bank has said we cannot do single digits just yet, but we can come down from the way above 20-something%, very close to 30%, and do a fixed interest rate of 15%. And we are going to start with our own money, 50 billion naira of our money. If we watch how the performance of the fund is, we can scale up to as much as 100, 200 billion if possible. But we have to look at all variables to see that the funds are performing. Right. Because you can't just go into a market and, for instance, say you want to start with 1 trillion naira and the fund does not perform. So it is always best you test the waters, see those, because you put out as much funds out there and SMEs do not access these funds. So that's not good for the banks as well. So once these funds perform, and we are very sure these funds are going to perform because there are a lot of creative-minded SMEs that have been waiting for this opportunity. But what we want to do, and what's most important, is that we do not want it to be 1 or 2 banks. We want it to be a way of life in this country.
All right, but at the end of the day, yeah, trying to get the banks, involved in this, that would require the central bank, also weighing in, because at the end of the day, we're seeing the MPC, raising rates on one hand, trying to mop up, excess liquidity, trying to tame inflation, at this point. But this fund, for most of these MSMEs, is it going to be the kind of fund that they can easily have access to? Not the type you hear about that, oh, okay, fine, the government has provided this fund, but you now hear that some of these people could not even get it, some of these MSMEs. And at the same time, how do we make it, how is the synergy like to make sure that the CBN is also, brought into this, to make sure that even though they're trying to, tame inflation, we're not spiking inflation again by lowering rates somewhere?
Okay, thank you, Ladi. So CBN as a regulator has not restricted any bank, be it commercial or federal government financial institution, from giving out single-digit loans. These are loans, these are funds from these banks. For instance, let's take the case of Access Bank. So I want to collect a loan now from Access Bank. I go to a place, I go to a branch in Enugu, for instance, and I tell them I need a loan for my business, either as a startup or as an expanding business. And then put in my application, they verify whatever it is that they need to verify. And then the banks are very comfortable with whatever it is that I bring. I collect my money and capish, that is it, so be it. That's between me as the MSME and the bank. So basically, that is what, it is not something that is restricted. It is not restricted in any way. It is something that anyone can wake up into the bank and go into the bank and collect. Now, you either qualify or you do not qualify. So if you are looking for, say for instance, you want to collect 20 million naira, and the banks see that you do not have you do not have the track record to return the 20 million, they might want to advise you that why don't you start with a 10? And so it is not something that is going to be difficult at all. There are no red tapes all over the place. It is going to be as simple as it is done anyway.
How's the government looking to track, the whole process to make sure that there are no red tapes? What kind of data are you going to be collecting, to make sure that the right people actually get access to these single-digit loans?
So this is very, very important, because what you've just said now is extremely important, because we need to know as a nation that what we're doing, we are tracking. So there will be a quarterly report. This report will be made public, who has collected what, at what rates, and from what cluster. This report will be made public, basically. So this report will even inform at the end of the year whether it is good for these banks to review these loans upward, or decide that, listen, these loans are not performing or not. So there must be a sort of M&A, and there's a mechanism in place to ensure that there's a public awareness of these loans. It is going to be common knowledge. It's going to be open to everyone, basically. This is as regards the loan. And let me just quickly chip in that next week, Tuesday, His Excellency Mr. Vice President will be representing Mr. President at the now expanded national MSME clinics. These are, you recall that the clinics were held under the last government. Now they've been reviewed by the current government, and Mr. Vice President will be representing the President in Benue State on the 9th, Tuesday. Now, we are not going to have a situation where investors come along for these clinics. They look at creative Nigerian businesses and business owners, and we encourage investors to buy into stocks in those businesses. For instance, I might be exhibiting made in Nigerian shoes, and you, laddie, you are an investor. You come in and you see my shoes and you like what I'm doing. You might decide that, you know what, why don't I offer you X amount for 20% stake? You know, we are trying to encourage something like this. And also, you know, people raise the issue of what if the investors want to take advantage of the businesses, because that is also possible. So we are ensuring that we are going with the right legal advice team that will sit down with the SMEs, you know, if such opportunities arise, to let them know that, listen, okay, if what you, so that they know the total portfolio of whatever it is that is their business, and know what it is that they can what it is that they can give out in terms of stock and not give out. So we will try to ensure that whilst we are trying to give these SMEs, open these opportunities to them, we also do not want them being taken advantage of. No, so for 2024, we are deliberate in ensuring that running business in Nigeria is more seamless. You know, if you recall that the special advisor on ease of doing business, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, who was an advisor under the last government, is also back. And that's because Mr. President has realized and he understands the enormity of this space, and he wants to ensure that businesses are run seamlessly.
Right. And
now,
I guess for us
is doing, you are now.
Yeah, I guess for us to actually see that, you know, happen in 2024, I guess at some point, you know, there'll be at least stable power supply, because at the end of the day, if there's no power supply, I don't know how, you know, businesses are going to thrive and be able to afford energy. We're seeing forecasts of energy prices in Nigeria. We're already seeing talks about the business environment, you know, getting more tougher, you know, in 2024. But I guess for us to see this happen, we need to start seeing the little signs, like constant power at least. Right. So definitely we're hoping for that. Thank you so much for coming on, Mr. Timitola Adekunle Johnson, Senior Special Assistant to the President on MSMEs and Job Creation. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Ladi.